Cloak and Dagger is, you know what, I'm actually not entirely sure because they're technically two people, but they play as one character in Marvel Rivals. Regardless, they're the best support in Marvel Rivals right now, and you should know how to play them. So Cloak and Dagger are two separate people, but they act as one hero. Dagger uses light-based energy to attack, and her Light Force Dagger ability, or default left-click attack, is a bouncing projectile that will heal friendlies or damage enemies. Light Force Dagger deals 15 points of damage per round and heals 10 points per hit. Additionally, this projectile creates a spell field when hitting a target and grants a small area of effect healing that grants 18 health points per hit. Light Force Dagger has a fire rate of 2.27 hits per second, which means with direct hits, you're healing your teammates for 22.7 points per second with just this base fire mode. Dagger's Veil of Light Force, or her E ability, fires out a spell field that looks like a shield and heals allies for 45 points and has a 15% healing boost when they touch the field, allowing you to heal your teammates by 26.1 points per second instead of the base 22.7. Adding this to the 45 points your allies can get from stepping into the ability's path, your teammates can get at least 71 points of healing just off minimal dagger hits. Dagger Storm, her right-click ability, launches a cloud of daggers that slowly heals herself and her teammates by 55 points per second in the field. The sphere lasts for 6 seconds, so you're able to get 330 health if you stand in the field for the entire duration. Now, the best way to combine Dagger's abilities is to keep firing your Light Force Dagger at friendlies between activations of her other skills. If you need to quickly heal your teammates throughout your E ability, Veil of Light Force, and follow up with a few dagger shots to the lowest allies, then hit the combo with her right-click skill, Dagger Storm, to ensure teammates stay healing. Cloak's abilities are damage focused and will not provide any healing for teammates. However, you should be switching on and off from Cloak to Dagger and vice versa throughout the entire match. Cloak's main fire mode is Dark Force Cloak, which is basically the same attack that Moira from Overwatch has. Hold left click to essentially suck your enemy's health bar down with 75 points of damage per second. This doesn't require a reload or anything, so you can just hold down the left mouse button. Cloak's E ability is Terror Cape, which looks very similar to Dagger's Veil of Light Force, but instead of a light spell field, a dark field is cast forward. This deals 55 damage immediately to enemies in its path, blinds them, forcing close range sight, and gives 20% vulnerability to each enemy hit for 3 seconds. While Cloak doesn't have any healing capabilities for him or his teammates, his right-click ability Dark Teleportation will phase nearby allies and himself, making them untargetable and invisible to enemies for 2 seconds. Allies who are in the ability activation field will get boosted movement and flight. If you're looking to optimize your damage dealt while playing as Cloak, I highly recommend you start attacks with the E Terror Cape ability, followed quickly by using his primary fire to deplete enemy health. You should be able to take down enemies fairly quickly, but if your opponent is tanky and left standing after the vulnerability period wears off, you can always follow up your attack with the right-click ability, Dark Teleportation, to back off and swap to Dagger. Like how you play Moira in Overwatch, you'll want to switch on and off from each mode, or in this case, person, for Cloak and Dagger to be utilized to their max strength. Your default state of being should be Dagger, since she can heal and deal damage at the same time. You should only be switching off Dagger when your team is stable and in need of extra DPS when you're pushing a point or defending. Find your rhythm with Dagger with the combo mentioned earlier, and make sure to keep an eye on your cooldowns since your main goal here is to keep your team and yourself alive. Now, you can't do that if you're just spamming abilities at will. Dagger's E ability will be the first thing you need to send out if teammates are in danger. If that heals them enough with the first touch, you can follow up with her right-click ability to provide healing over time while you spam the shit out of her primary daggers. If you're in trouble, drop the right-click Dagger Storm, then swap to Cloak and use his ability Dark Teleportation to give yourself and nearby teammates 2 seconds of heal time in the Dagger Storm, which should give you 110 health points. Since Dark Teleportation grants you invincibility for 2 seconds, you'll be able to recover enough to swap back to Dagger to heal teammates. Don't make the same mistake a lot of Moira players in Overwatch make, where they try to go damage first. The penalty with Cloak and Dagger is a bit greater since you have to physically swap people, but honestly you'd be amazed at the things that people have tried to do with these characters. Always heal teammates first. That is your primary goal. You're a support player even if Cloak has really great damage abilities. To best utilize Cloak and Dagger's ultimate Eternal Bond, you need to understand that this ability is not just for damage. Eternal Bond will heal teammates at a rate of 220 health per second and will only damage enemies for 30 points per second. You get 3 dashes total for the ultimate, and each dash lasts for 5 seconds. Each dash puts down a spell field that deals damage to enemies or heals your teammates depending on who's in the path. Using Eternal Bond should really be for healing yourself and your teammates in really dire situations. It's not a get out of free jail card by any means, but it's extremely useful to extend your teammate's life in a final battle for the objective. You can also utilize the ultimate if you're low on health and need to stay alive a bit longer to hold the objective while waiting for your teammates to come back to point. Don't utilize Eternal Bond just for damage because you'll end up dying for it. With the first 2 dashes, don't be afraid to go forward to reach teammates who are further or to finish off low health enemies. But with the last dash, be sure to go back to a safe location so you're not just stranded behind enemy line once the ultimate runs out. I'd highly recommend throwing down Dagger's E ability to boost healing, then swap to Cloak to use his E ability to make enemies vulnerable before triggering their ultimate to deal the most amount of damage and healing for those in your way. If you do things correctly, you should be able to get at least 15,000 or 20,000 healing done in a payload game mode or one of those longer capture point matches. You should also be getting kills equal to a lower DPS player and getting the most assists out of your team and maybe even the enemy's team. Cloak and Dagger aren't the easiest heroes to learn, but they are by far the best support hero in Marvel Rivals right now. Let me know who your favorite character is to play right now, and let me know if this helped.